To replace an idle air control motor, the tools you will need include a small, flat blade screwdriver, a standard or metric wrench set. For some GM vehicles, you'll need a small ruler and, of course, the correct replacement IAC motor for your vehicle. To prevent burns when working under the hood, always start repairs with a cool engine. Begin by labeling and removing any hose or electrical connections to the air filter housing, and remove the housing if it obstructs access to the IAC motor. Not all models require this. Next, locate the IAC motor on the injection unit. Before proceeding any farther, make sure the ignition switch is in the off position. Use a small, flat blade screwdriver to release the locking tabs and disconnect the electrical harness from the IAC motor. Remove the IAC motor from the injection unit. Compare the old motor to the new one to be sure of correct replacement. The most critical area to compare is the pintle on the external type, as 3 different designs are used. One has a single taper, one has a dual taper, and the other has a blunt style of pintle. Your replacement must be the same type or drivability problems will result. Next, measure the distance between the tip of the pintle and the end of the motor housing on the new motor. It should be extended no more than 1 1/8 of an inch. If the pintle is out too far, it must be adjusted. There are 2 methods for adjustment of the IAC motors on most vehicles. This type, with a collar at the electrical connection, is adjusted by simply pushing firmly in on the end of the pintle. This type without a collar is adjusted by holding the spring down with one hand and turning the pintle counterclockwise with the other. Before installing a new IAC motor of this design, use a clean shop towel soaked in oxygen sensor-safe carburetor cleaner to remove any deposits that may be built up in the seat area of the injector. If you have an internal design IAC motor, cleaning is not recommended. With the pintle seat clean and the IAC motor adjusted, use a new gasket and screw the new motor into place. Always begin turning components in by hand to prevent cross-threading. Tightening most IAC motors requires the use of a large wrench. Be extremely careful not to over-tighten it, as damage to the IAC will result. Reconnect the electrical harness to the IAC motor, making sure it is firmly seated. Now, reinstall the air filter housing if it was removed earlier, and reconnect all hose and electrical connections. Start the vehicle and allow it to run until it reaches operating temperature. Then test drive the vehicle at a constant speed over 45 miles per hour. This will allow the onboard computer to reestablish a reference point for controlling the IAC motor.
Let's quickly recap the steps necessary to replace your idle air control motor. Always begin with a cool engine. Make sure all accessories are turned off, including the ignition key. Locate the IAC motor and disconnect the electrical connection. With a large wrench, remove the IAC motor from the injection unit. Compare the old and new motors to be sure of correct replacement. If the motor is adjustable, measure the throw distance of the old motor. Adjust the new motor to match this distance. Clean the pintle seat with a towel soaked in carburetor cleaner and install the new IAC motor in the housing. Be careful not to over-tighten the IAC motor, as damage could result. Reconnect the electrical connector and test drive the vehicle at a steady speed over 45 miles per hour to allow the onboard computer to reestablish a reference point.